There's two sides to every coin. Then there's a conversation you can join. But I'm an old dog and there's new tricks. And some of my opinions you just can't fix. 'Cause I'm an old man yelling at the sky. I'ma shake my fist at the clouds and cry. Get off my lawn, you snowflake, before I have a meltdown, breakdown, shakedown. 'Cause this is my hometown, so back down, sports clown. It's all just a game, and it's the last down, let down, cowtown. I said it's all just a game. I give the touchdown, the rundown, the lowdown. 'Cause it's over the game, gonna crack down and shut down the sundown. I said it's all just a game.
Hi, kids. Welcome to the program. I'm me. She is her, and you are you. So thanks for being here. Just a game. As we start our new summer adventure, 2 shows a week, Mondays and Fridays. We'll be back on Friday. Today, though, you'd never know. It does not feel like that. This is Cami Kepke, obviously, with us. Hello, from Global, The Surge, and so many other places. But you know this to be true. This is on the sporting calendar the single quietest day of the year. It is the MLB Home Run Derby, which 2 decades ago didn't exist. And then the Major League Baseball All-Star Game tomorrow. And then Wednesday, no games, and back at it on Thursday. This is technically supposed to be the dog days of summer, but far from it. As a matter of fact, you're here because we put together a kind of a intentionally rather interesting show, I would suggest, for a lot of us, but it's been one that we've been working on for a while too, but because for a number of reasons, schedule being the biggest, it finally comes together today with the 3 most important people in all of youth sports, 2.5 or 3 of the most important people in women's hockey. All converging in one area, one place, not at one time. We'll spread out the goodness, but it's finally come together.
You are a titan of youth sports, Rob.
Oh, no, not me, not me. You, you're the award winner, not me, right? Yes,
I still can't believe
yeah,
that happened.
but it did. Carla MacLeod, the head coach of the University of Calgary Dinos women's hockey team, 6th coach in team history, will join us. Also, probably more importantly for this conversation, the head coach of Team Czechia, the last 2 years at the World Women's Hockey Championships, in which that country has won its first 2 medals. Also appearing on the program, and was scheduled to be on the program anyway, but then it took a bit of a twist here 10 days ago, is Tatum Amy, who is your reigning Canada West Women's Hockey Player of the Year, captain of the Mount Royal Cougars.
Casual national champion,
all-time leading scorer at Mount Royal, and was on her way to Buffalo, shuffling off to Buffalo to play in the fall. But that's not necessarily the case now with the PWPHA taking over and purchasing the PHF. Is that right? I get the
no. So the PWHPA and PHF were separate.
Yes.
And then the outside entity with the owners, who include is it Mark Walter, the co-owner of
Stan Kasten and
Billie Jean King.
And Billie Jean King.
So they have gotten both leagues. They have a collective bargaining agreement together. The PHF will cease operations and just completely shut down. The PWHPA wasn't a league to begin with. It was a showcase series.
It was an entity.
It will also disband, and they will form a new league.
A new to be named league, but to part of that, teams like Buffalo cease to exist and their contracts have been voided.
Oh boy, do we have some numbers to get into on that.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. And Tatum is actually far more interesting than your typical hockey player is anyway, because of her other interests and her other passions, so to speak. So I'm really excited about that conversation. That is coming up. But Carla's going to join us here in the next little while. Before we get there, not a lot to add from the local hockey hero standpoint. Their annual prospect camp came and went over the weekend. It finished up over the weekend at Winsport. Matt Coronado, by all intents and purposes, stood out. Hosnick, the first round pick, stood out. But it's kind of the rest of Craig Conroy's work, which remains, in the public eye. Is Lindholm staying? Is Backlund staying? Is Hanifin going? Those types of things. Not much changing there. The only big thing that happened in the National Hockey League while we were away was Alex DeBrincat finally gets traded to Detroit.
Finally, you say it like this was like a Chychrun-esque situation.
No, it wasn't Chychrun-esque, except that it always felt like the right destination, and then it fell apart, and then it got put back again, and then it fell apart, and it put back again. And we had Eric Hatchak on Friday. We were talking about Steve Yzerman and the Red Wings, and there was a lot of people that were kind of, hasn't been a great summer for the Red Wings. Well, you add a 40-goal scorer who's a local guy, and I suggested that changes your summer. We'll see. Didn't like the way DeBrincat left. The comment on one of the calls today was, well, I was only in Ottawa for a year, so I really didn't have enough time to figure out whether or not I wanted to stay long-term. Exactly how long does one need? Like, what do you mean I was only there 1 year? He didn't want to be there. They knew he didn't want to be there. They controlled the asset by qualifying him. They get Dominic Kubalik, Kubalik, who we all had to scramble around. He was a Calder Trophy finalist. He did not win the Calder Trophy, but he was a Calder Trophy finalist a couple of years ago in Chicago. Was a former teammate of DeBrincat, and now he's in Ottawa along with a conditional first round. And I don't know if you read the details on the conditional first round pick. Wow.
Lots to go on there.
Lots to go there. Yeah.
A lot of things got to come into play.
Yeah, because it could be Boston's pick, which Detroit owns. But if Boston's pick gets into the top 10 or falls to the top 10, then Boston can defer it for a year. And so there's lots of fun and frivolity to be had right there.
Monty Python-esque.
Yeah.
But going back to, honestly, just since you mentioned Flames camp, honestly, the only thing that is like distracted from the Lindholm noise was people craning to get a glimpse of Iggy helping some of the kids out on the ice, giving them some advice and just hanging around Winsport. People went nuts.
He still draws. We were in an event a couple of weeks ago with some of the alumni, and a lady came up to me and said, these are great, but I want Jerome McGinley. Can you get me Jerome McGinley's autograph? And at that point, Jerome was not attached to the team. And I'm like, you rarely see it, but no, Jerome carries a lot of sway, still does, always will, right?
Oh, totally.
Okay. Before we move on, you wanted to make mention of the Cavalry.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, we talk about this being one of the slower parts of the year, and we had a very disappointing Stamps game on Friday. The Cavs pulled off a massive win, their second straight road win against league-leading Pacific FC.
Yeah.
That was massive. We saw Eric Kobza, the former captain of the Calgary Dinos, get his first pro goal. Fraser Aird gets his first goal as a member of the Cavalry. Meyer Bevan, who we've had in here on the show twice now, he had the nastiest back pedal assist on Fraser's goal. It was a thing of beauty, and Pacific did cut the lead to 2-1, and I feel like the Cavs definitely survived that one at the end, but now they come home for a couple. They've got Atletico Ottawa coming up on Wednesday, and then Halifax a couple days later, so get on out there. I believe the tickets start at $26 with the Stampede Double Down deal.
I punt to those who know the league a little better than I do, but I do know that there were a lot of people wondering if Tommy Wheeldon Jr.'s club was starting to get its feet underneath it, and if they weren't set for the bigs, because correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe that the opposition had lost at home in a year, right? It was a calendar year since their last setback at home, and then Calgary went in there and picked up the win. So not a bad road trip, I would suggest.
Definitely. I think there's still work for them to do just in terms of hanging on to that lead and playing aggressively right to the end. Some of that is player decision. Some of that might be player management, who's coming on as a substitute, that kind of thing. But it's really promising because, you know, they were at the lower end of the mucky middle for quite some time now, 13 matches into the season. And today they sit third on the table and just 4 points behind Pacific and 1 point behind good old Forge.
Yeah. Yes.
And
they're
Atletico's
sworn
6,
enemy.
so that could be a big one for them.
Big game.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We are live in the Oodle Noodle studios. As a matter of fact, Tatum Amy is going to join us live in the Noodle studios in a little under an hour's time. We do remind you that, of course, we are broadcasting live from Treaty 7 territory, and this is an inclusive program. Everybody's welcome. Everybody is a friend here. And I think that actually really is a nice little bridge into our first guest of the program, somebody we've been trying to tackle and get on for a while because she's quite honestly is well, wonderful, but is a really cool story too. So our first guest, of course, brought to you by Ski Cellar Snowboard, skicellarsnowboard.com. A reminder, all 4 stores are closed today, but will reopen very, very soon. You don't want to hear that. It's the middle of Stampede, but the fall and winter and ski season and snowboarding season will be here soon enough. And of course, you can always join them online at skicellarsnowboard.com. 2-time Olympic gold medalist. She is the head coach of the University of Calgary Dinos, also the head coach of Team Czechia at World Women's Hockey. And our good friend, Carla MacLeod, joins us today. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, and nice to see you, Cami. And obviously, Rob, good to be here. So yeah, thanks for having me. I'm living the dream. I'm live on vacation here, so this is good.
Well, I appreciate you doing this. You didn't have to, but trying to nail you down and get some of your time is very difficult. Tell us a little bit about the last year or so, between your university duties and your Czechia duties, and all of the things that have come with success.
Yeah, it's. I was actually reflecting on the plane ride over here, just thinking what the last 12 months have been, and it's been busy for sure. I think everyone's kind of living the busy life, and I kind of joke with myself and say, well, if you signed up to coach Czech, you're on top of coaching the Dinos. There's probably no other solution to be had other than being busy. So, you know what, a bit of a whirlwind for sure. Obviously, I'm only 2 years in with the Dinos, so even that's still quite new on the grand scheme of things. So just again, kind of getting comfortable there and getting our group aimed in the right direction. It's been nothing short of incredible. Great group to work with, but still new there. So learning the ways. And then also, obviously, with taking over Czech, it's just now the travel component, having coached 2 world championships in whatever it was, 7 months or 8 months, which is abnormal. So there's been a lot of hockey in my life, but good news is I love it. So it's been a great year.
I'm so curious because, I mean, you burst onto the scene with Czechia. You guys get your first medal at Worlds, and it's a bronze, which is just so fabulous for those women. But then you prove that it wasn't a fluke, and you do it again. What did that second bronze prove about the group?
Yeah, but both were quite something. Both were a really sort of unique story. To have the front row seat to that first one was really like nothing else I've ever experienced in the game. When people realize their own potential and you've had a front row seat to it, it's a privilege. So, certainly that was a big sort of check mark for the group and the team. And it's been on a good trajectory for a handful of years here. And they had just qualified for the previous Olympics for the first time. So there was certainly some positive momentum. But to your point, all of a sudden now we moved up to the A pool, which in women's hockey at the World Championships, they tier the top 10 teams. So the top 5 are in A pool, next 5 are in the B pool. So we had come out of the B pool in the first Worlds, and the second one we were starting in the A pool for the very first time ever. So, we had to navigate the tournament slightly differently because when you come out of the B pool, you need to win everything. You got to win every game. It matters right away. In the A pool, you have to essentially build and get better because you're guaranteed a quarterfinal game. So we had to navigate the tournament strategically and understand sort of the shape of the tournament now. And then, of course, we had a different roster. We just didn't take the same 23 players. We actually had seven different players from the 2 different world championships. So we were learning those players, and those players were learning us. So, I think to your question, that second win for bronze was, certainly a confidence booster, a reassurance that, hey, we can stay in this top pool. We can probably be a top 4 contender in the world with some level of consistency. That's our goal, obviously.
Are you playing an active role beyond just that team within the Czech hockey, programs? Are you giving advice? Are you monitoring the young players that are coming up in the system? Do you have any role in developing your next set of players?
With the country being so small and so few women actually playing the game in Czech, it ends up being a very small community. And, I'll give a lot of credit to our team manager, Teresa. I think she sort of oversees the game countrywide. And, they just started a brand new Future Olympians program over there for young girls. And, so she's got a great vision of how to grow the game. And, my role within that is ensuring that our group is motivating and inspiring that next generation. And, I always think back to when I was a kid and the women that played on the national team well before I did. And it's a really important role. So, I'm not so much on the ground all the time, obviously just being from Canada and not being over there full time, but we have a great staff and our Czech staff, our assistant coaches and equipment managers, they're all invested in growing the game over there. So I think we're working collectively for sure. And certainly when I can help out and provide input, and, that's obviously my goal, but I would say they're doing the heavier lifting on that front.
How big is that player pool?
It's not large. I don't know the actual numbers. It's probably on the IIHF somewhere. Yeah, but what I can say is the women that play over there are passion's an understatement. Our captain just retired earlier this spring. She's been on the team for 19 years. I played on the national team for 6, and it felt like a healthy career. So, these women, many of them have made the senior team at, 14, 15 years old, and they're still pushing the game to the next level. So, maybe back to that opening question about the bronze medal. That's why, for me, it was just so thrilling to know that these women and the years they'd put in, they'd finally reap the reward they've been chasing for so long.
So with that said, where's the development of the players that you have? And you and I have had many conversations about how we've grown the game here in Canada. Am I safe in assuming that some of your players grew up playing in the men's stream over there?
Yeah, 100% accurate. And actually, they still do. So the younger players kind of through elementary, junior high, high school, they all play on the boys stream. And then when they get to the university age, the bulk of the women on the senior national team did play NCAA Division I hockey or some form of university, or they went to Sweden and played pro in Sweden. So that's still to this day, we kind of have half our group between Sweden and Finland in the pro leagues, and we have half over here, which was the PHF and or NCAA. So certainly, the root system is through Czech for sure. And when I watch them play, you can see there's just some natural traits that they develop when playing in their youth programs down there that I would have died to have had when I was a player. But certainly as they get to the higher level, they've been able to benefit from some of the different organizations around the world.
And this year's tournament was really cool because fans got an idea of what it was like to be on the bench when Carla MacLeod is coaching you. So I think we're going to pull up a short video here, and then I want to hear your thoughts on what it was like to actually see what you look and sound like on the bench in the middle of game action. You got it, Jack? Heck yeah.
So here we go, Red. Here we go, gang. Speed and contact, hey, ladies? Speed and contact. Here we go. Nice, Nat. Right ideas. Good start, Red. Just like I taught you how to shoot? Yeah, Carla Shuto, hey? Yeah. Okay.
Carla Shuto.
Yeah, I didn't have a shot. That kid's shot's way better than mine. You know what? Just to be able to watch it, I smile watching it now too. And I think, that's been a big part of sort of my coaching philosophy. And I'd say particularly in the last sort of 4 or 5 years is really trying to make the bench somewhere we all want to be. And you can see the energy on that bench. Their energy feeds me. And, I'm just smart enough to sort of get out of the way of them and just sort of be there to, I help them, of course, but, bring the energy. I always think, my coach, Mark Johnson at the University of Wisconsin, always says your team's going to be a direct reflection of you. What do you want to see? And that's resonated with me. And, I chuckle when you listen to that full live mic. I say pizza, I think 83 times, and everyone's wondering what pizza is. It's just a small area on the offensive zone that we call pizza, kind of a quiet spot. But it's fun to listen to yourself because you see what you say and how you say it. So actually, for a lot of coaches, I'd recommend it. I know Wally Kozak always says that when he's mentoring coaches, if you want to know what kind of coach you are, record yourself. You'll hear how you say things and what you say. So, to me, it was a real pleasure, and I'm grateful that the IIHF, chose us to mic up and give us the opportunity to kind of live that moment. But we have a lot of fun on the bench. So all that was kind of just what you see is what you get with our group.
It's funny you talk about making the bench a place you want to be. So Rob, this year during U Sports playoffs, when had just been knocked out of the quarterfinals, unfortunately, but the ladies and Carla were still showing up and supporting the men throughout their run.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to Carla, and honestly, you could not go 5 minutes without one of her players coming over and wanting to chat with her, trying to convince her to come have a beer with them. I think it said a lot that, a lot of these kids, they're not hiding from their coach out at, kind of a social event. They really wanted you to be a part of that. That was so cool to see.
Yeah, I'm just really lucky. Like at the end of the day, the privilege of this job is you get to work with people. And when you just sort of get to know people and, you just value the time you get to spend with them, usually the connection is pretty awesome. So, I think for anyone that I try to work with, and I actually feel like I'm the lucky one. So I think when you go in with that mentality, hopefully it helps the group come together and kind of just keep building that rapport. And of course, there's tough days and there's hard days and there's tough decisions as coaches that you have to make that obviously impact people the way that you naturally wouldn't want to, but they're just decisions that need to be made. So it's not like it's all rosy all the time, but I think the foundation of, seeing people first is all we need in life. And it doesn't matter whatever industry, but I know certainly in ours, it has profound impact.
But you're a maverick, because that's not how you're supposed to coach. That's not how we're taught to coach. So to me, I'm fascinated by the cameras that you have allowed to watch you do your work with your players for the rest of the world to see. But most importantly, where it started, you touched on it, like, make it a place you want to be, make it a fun place. The only place I've seen that is at Superheroes, the program that you come and coach. Like how conscious and how difficult the decision has it been to go down that path and really kind of push aside the years of, I don't even know what to call it, Carla, but it's so refreshing. How much of a, going out on a limb has that been for you?
Well, it hasn't felt like that, but I know I made a sort of an overt change. Like I made a conscious decision to try to see how I could do this better. And again, I'll go back to Mark, my university coach. I actually called him before the Canada Games. I was head coaching Team Alberta in 2019. And the thing that I admired so much about Mark when I played for him was just his calmness. He was just always calm. He never got yelled at, never got worked up, just, find solutions at the end of the day. And so I called him and I just said, Mark, when you were my age, were you the same level of calmness? And he said, I think I was, Carla. I just think, it's just a game. And then again, your team will reflect who you are. And it was from that moment on, like when I walked into Red Deer for that event, I just decided I was going to try to be the best Mark Johnson I could be. And by kind of following in his footsteps and trying to stay that cool head, I found I was a better Carla MacLeod. And from that moment on, I've just decided that the game, nothing is worth it in the game to ever go down the path of, negativity. It doesn't mean you're not correcting or coaching or making corrections, but, I know as a player, I never went on the ice and meant to suck. So I assume my players never go on the ice and mean to make mistakes or have errors occur. So, I think it's been, honestly, Rob, it's been a progressional thing, a little bit of maturity from me just getting a little bit older and understanding what maybe matters more than the wins and the losses of the scoreboard. And I'm still learning, and I think that's maybe what's keeping me, on a decent path, is I actually don't think I know that much yet. I got lots left to learn. But I do know that making others feel valued and heard and cared for is something I know in those environments I thrive in. So that's the environment that we try to cultivate as a group when we're together.
Has the institution at all tried to push back? Because a lot of what I'm talking about is institutional, right? It's just the way we've done it. We always do it. We don't, have there been coaches or players or former teammates or observers that have come to you and go, oh, I'm not sure you should, has there been that pushback?
Well, I think, of course, there's always a little bit of doubt, because I think in our society, we always feel like you're either focused or you're having fun.
Right.
Like they put them on the same scale. So if you're having fun, you're not focused, or if you're focused, you're not having fun. And I think that's my best way of explaining it is you can actually have a fun, focused energy. So we're not partying on the Dinos bench or partying on the Czech bench. We're very, very detailed and very meticulous in our game plan and what we're doing. But we're doing it from an angle that's rooted in, we're all just doing our best. And, I'll give a small example. We were playing Canada for the first time ever in Canada at a World Championship. So you can imagine the moment. It's a pretty big one. And for me personally, there was a lot going on too, of course. And I think they scored their 6th goal, and I called the timeout. And we were so thrilled of how our group was playing. We were playing physical. We weren't intimidated. We were in the hockey game. And so in the timeout, we actually just said that. That was why we called the timeout. We paused the game a little bit, trying to slow the pace, of course, and change the flow of it. But in the same breath, all we said on the bench was, this game has been amazing. Let's finish out these last 10 minutes. We're so proud of you. That's literally what we said in the timeout. So I think things like that, as a young coach, if I could have known 15 years ago or 10 years ago that was an okay thing to do, I think it would have freed me up as a coach to be a little bit more natural. So, there's a time and place for all of it, but there's always a little bit of doubt when you're trying to do something that's maybe not seen as the norm, even though I think there are a lot of great coaches out there that have paved this path for me to walk down.
And I want to make sure I'm really clear on this. I don't think you're making light of anything, but we had we were talking some NHL here during the season, and I brought your name up, and one of we were kind of talking about coaching, and it was Billy Jaffe actually from Nesson who brought it up. He said it's because Carla's meeting the player where they're at, not talking down to them, meeting the player where they're at. That's the next generation of coaching. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, not putting yourself in a different boat as a staff. You're all in the same boat. So if you think you're in a different boat than your team and your players, you're in some trouble. I'm only as good as my crew, and I'm just one of, at the Dinos, I'm one of 30 people in that boat. Same with Czech. So if you think you're above or different, I think that's where things can kind of go sideways. And I think the other hardest part as a coach, and this is where I had to learn, is the result of the team or the result of the game isn't a direct reflection of the work we're doing, whether it be as a player or as a coach. So, all of that's hard. There's moments where you're just wondering what you need to do and where you're at. But, my biggest approach with both the Dinos and Czech was simply, what are our strengths and how do we bolster them? And for me, it took some time to go in and assess that and realize that I didn't go in with a hard, itemized list of things we're going to have to do to make them better. I had to learn who they were first. And I think that's maybe a bit of a niche approach that others could benefit from, is there's always a kind of a tool set, a basic foundation you're going to bring that are kind of how the game's played. But you got to mirror that to your team, not jam your team into that, in my opinion. That's kind of how we try to go about it. So, there's days where I look like I know what I'm doing, and there's days that look like I don't know what I'm doing. And both are probably quite true.
Cami brought the video, and we could have played lots of it. Like, we were looking at it beforehand. Thank you for doing it. But is that allowing the cameras what I would almost call intimate access, to team, post-game team, the bench and things like that? Why do that? Why allow that?
It grows the game. I think learning how to coach is one of the hardest things in life, and sometimes the best way to learn is to see. So I thought it would give an opportunity for that. I thought it would give me a good opportunity to see what I do for myself and what I need to get better at. And so there's a bit of a selfish motive to that way, that I knew, I would learn. And I also just thought they were sharing our story as a team so nicely. Not many people will get a keepsake like that. In all honesty, that's how I view it. It's a keepsake. And I just thought it gave access into the game that, I'm a big fan of all those Netflix series too, where you kind of get to see the people behind the machine of the sport. And I thought, I'm proud of what we do as a group. I'm proud of how hard our staffs work and how hard our players work. So if somebody wants to share that and be a part of it, that's no issue for us. There's no secrets in the game. Somebody made a comment, because in that video, we challenged a goal, and had we been wrong, we were going to be on the penalty kill. So the video showed me saying, hey, remember, if we get on a penalty kill here, we have to push up on Stalder, one of the best Swiss players, one of the best players in the world. And somebody's like, well, why would they want that to be seen or heard? And I was like, well, anyone that's watched their power play knows that that's what's going to happen. This wasn't secret, you guys. So to me, there's no secrets. So it was just an opportunity to share. And I thought, again, it told our story so nicely. So I thought it was a win-win.
Now you're turning your attention back to the Dinos. Season schedule just dropped, off to the races on the 29th. Father David Bauer, home game against McEwen. One of the big pieces of that machine is Sydney Mercier, U Sports Rookie of the Year. Where do you expect the team to be at this year, and what does the next step forward look like for Sid?
Yeah, I think from a team perspective, really proud of the gains that we've made collectively, both sort of on the ice and in the room and in the community. And, we're only sort of planting our roots in all those realms. So we're getting there. And, we missed the playoffs in our first year and hosted in our second year. And, Canada West is such a conference that you never know what's going to shake out. But, every weekend's going to be competitive. And honestly, every puck drop, you don't know if you're going to win or lose. And that's why I think it's just one of the best conferences and leagues in the world. The parity is incredible. So, for this upcoming year, it's just taking it game by game. I know it's so cliche, but that's just the reality of the industry. So we'll do that again and, try to scratch and claw our way into the playoffs and keep building. So we'll look to do that. And of course, to your point, for Sid to have the year she had last year, again, it makes me smile. She ended up having a medical red shirt the first year. She was injured early on and missed the whole season. So for her to be able to come back and play the year and then it was just, she was like, just the momentum she was building all year. You could just see it. The confidence was coming along. And that's the biggest challenge. When kids come at a U18 level and step into the U sport, like that's a 5-6 year age gap. That's the biggest step they'll ever make in their careers. So, but you could see it coming along, and that second half, and she just rose and the team rose collectively, in all honesty. So, she's going to be a key player, of course, moving forward. But having said that, I think the depth of our roster and where we're at is always going to be kind of how we look at it. We just have to be, we always think we have to be the best team. And that's what we work hard towards every year.
Yeah, she was crazy in the second half, but I think it was either her second or her third collegiate game, like boom, 2 assists.
Yeah. Yeah, she sees the ice really well. She's a good little playmaker, and she has a calmness with the puck that allows her to make the play she wants to play at the time she wants to make it. So, of course, now she's not going to be flying under anyone's radar. So that changes the dynamic in her second year. So, just learning how to navigate that now, and, and she will. She's a hockey player. She's a great human. So she'll navigate it.
I'm really curious. A lot of players who challenge for those national team spots tend to go down to the NCAA. What has to happen to encourage more of those players to stay here, or even American players to try to come to U Sports and the Canada West?
Yeah, I think that's kind of been the age-old question, of course, is just, how do we retain players in Canada? And, I don't have any of the answers either. I think just finding the right fit for every player is really the priority, so that they love the game, and that when they get into beer league, like we all do, they're still excited to play. And, so I don't know if I see it as sort of a conflict. I just see it as just there's opportunities to play, and there's different levels around the world. And maybe that's my international experience sort of kicking in there. Like, I realize that just finding the right fit to play is more important than saying, well, why aren't our Canadians staying in Canada? I know what U Sport offers, and it's unbelievable. And I can compare it directly to the NCAA because I played it. And I think every program is running an incredible experience for their student athletes now. So, I guess, Cami, if there was a solution to be had, or if there was ever a table to discuss it, I'd be happy to sit at the table. But I don't see it as a big concern, because I think, the more women's hockey that's being offered, regardless of level or where, the better the game's going to be.
That's awesome. I appreciate your perspective on that. You mentioned your own playing career there. I want to ask, we have Carla MacLeod here. We need some stories. Your final Olympics were in 2010. Canada allows 1 goal against the entire tournament. Shut out the States 2 Brit for gold, with this rookie making her Olympic debut, one Marie-Philippe Poulin. Did you know that you were seeing a very special player at that point?
Yes. We knew it. There's just been no doubt from, as soon as you heard her name, you knew there was something special. And I guess the best part, and it's been well documented with Pooh, is just who she is as a human. She just draws you in. She's unbelievable. So I always thank her. She's won many of us Olympic gold medals. So that's a win. But to see her play there and just as a young player, she's just always been passionate about the game, and it shows. Like, you can see it to this day. And for her to be captain of the national team now, it's just very fitting. But yeah, certainly to kind of have that, the entry point of her career at the national team be my end point. I've been nothing but proud as I watched her grow and mature and elevate that program to the next level. And it's not just her, and she knows that. She says that all the time. She's the most humble person I know. But she's certainly been the beacon for all of us to sort of say, hey, this is how we're going to go about this industry, and this is what professional looks like. So I'm thrilled for her and all the gals, that this professional league is probably coming about now, and they'll have the right place to play. But yeah, Poulen's been somebody special in the game, and you don't do what she does and not be great.
That was also the Olympics where the team was criticized for celebrating on the ice afterwards with some beverages and some cigars. What did you guys make of the criticism at the time?
I think about that still, and it actually boils my blood. Like, if I'm being honest, what a disaster. Like, what kind of world were we living in? Like, for us to put in the year that we put in and to be ridiculed, and we were raked over the coals publicly, behind the scenes, apologies being issued by Hockey Canada on our behalf. Like, what is wrong? And I still think there's a massive gap there. Like, it's getting better, but not at a rate that's at all okay. So to be honest, it's the one memory, and it's sort of tainted that memory. There's that one piece to it, or it's just like, what's wrong with us? That, grown women couldn't have a beer or cigar in the venue that they just won the biggest sporting event on home soil. And again, it's not throwing stones, but we saw what happened to John Montgomery with his beer chugging in Whistler. He's on Oprah, and we were told we weren't role models. So the double standard there was really, really unfortunate. And I think it's part of sport that we're flushing out, and we just need to flush it a bit quicker.
Definitely. I will say, at the time I was watching that game, and I was just like, they're badasses. All of them. It was I thought it was a really cool thing to see, like, as a tomboy who was always told, like, you got to be a little more feminine, you got to wear a dress more. It was like, they're doing it right. And I thought at first, honestly, watching it, that like that stuff had been supplied to you guys, they're like, here, go celebrate. Yeah. So I don't know, that was the way it came off for me.
Well, it's what it should be, right? So at the end of the day, like, there's no apology for what it was. It's what it should be, and it needs to be more and more. And that's something, we're even with Czech, I make sure there's opportunities that we can get them some beer. Like, they're women and pros, and it's part of the game. It's part of socializing, part of building a team. So yeah, certainly, it's unfortunate that the narrative was what it was, because the experience actually wasn't anything close to the narrative. But having said that, we would do it again. We've done it again, and it'll continue. So we do it with women bronze too, apparently, because I watched it in the Czech dressing room. So there was beer flowing there too. So it's great. It's just growing the game, and it's just more of a societal challenge than anything else.
Yeah.
There might be a little bit of recency bias, just because, like, Team Canada is still doing massive things. People are watching Marie-Philippe Poulin and now Sarah Fillier driving that bus. But those national teams you played on were just like stacked, like Haley Wickenheiser, like Oulette, Augusta. Like, how would you say, like, maybe the 06 team, how would they fare in today's game taking on Canada or the States?
Well, I can assure you that every national team is stacked. So you don't make a national team without it being an unbelievable team and comprised of a lot of incredible players. The good news is the game's still growing, as is the men's game, as is every sport. Like, I was watching Wimbledon. I watched the LPGA on the weekend. Like, you you look at Annika playing there, and like, I love Annika Sorenstam, and you saw the course, it was hard, and she's older. The game evolves. So I don't think you can ever compare sort of eras to one another because of the growth of the game. But I can assure you that every era is the top version of the game. And that's why the national team level and the world championship level is so special. because you truly are seeing the best of the best in every sport. So, I think I look back to my teams, and you're right. Like it's a list of Hall of Famers. My favorite one being Kim St. Pierre when she went in, because all of us defensemen, we just said, "You're welcome," because we gave up all those opportunities. So it's probably the closest I'll be to the Hall of Fame, but I feel like I gave St. Pierre a good assist to get in there. But it's so great to see the evolution of the game and the growth of the game, and know that our generation had a small part in growing the game during that phase.
One of your teammates from those teams, Jana Hefford, a big part of negotiating the new Women's Pro League, which obviously is bittersweet for some players. But what does it mean to you to see the PHF now shutting down and the PWHPA having served its purpose and a new league having the groundwork laid for 2024?
Yeah, like the long term of that is incredible, right? It's what's been the hope for decades. There's been a lot of women in this industry, a lot of men in this industry trying to push that forward from a lot of different angles throughout the years. So to see it coming through where it feels like there's a stability and a foundation that could be built upon is truly exciting. Of course, you have Tatum coming up here later, who thought she was going to get a great opportunity with Buffalo, and I have 8 Czech women that were signed in PHF contracts. So the short-term turbulence for particularly that group, amongst others, is the uncertainty is hard to kind of navigate. And there's a lot of questions as to why and what, and not a lot of answers quite yet. So, it's I think when you make big change like this, it's never an easy first step or first 10 steps, in all honesty. But the long-term opportunity that's going to provide women's hockey and female athletes, and you think that the bigger the organizational side of it, who can employ, and the opportunities will be endless now. And that's great. We just have to navigate the uncertainty right now to the best of our abilities, and hope at the end of the day, everyone will find a place to play, even if this timing was a little bit awkward for those PHF women.
I'm sorry about your Czech players being put in that position now. I hope they didn't have visas or leases signed.
Well, I think everyone's
pretty close.
Everyone's dealing with that, and again, change is change, and we often don't get to control and have the say as to when. So I kept saying to the crew, I said, don't be caught up on the timing. We can't change that. What are the solutions? And I think that's, I'm sure Tatum's in the same boat. You're just trying to find solutions. There are options. It's not ideal, but it's also 1 year.
Yep.
And hopefully they can work through it.
What do you need to see? And I don't know if it needs to be linked. For a long time, it was always the NHL, right? The NHL needs to wrap its arms around the league. And then, we heard, well, we're only going to deal with one group, right? And it reminds me a little bit of the conversation about celebrating after 2010. We'll be, we want equality, but on our terms and on our time schedule. So what does the National Hockey League need to provide or do for this league to be successful, or does it?
Yeah, I'm not informed well enough to truly know. But I can say, obviously, the people that have been sitting around that table have done some incredible work to get it to this point. I think women's sport is viable on its own right. We're seeing it in every other sport, in all honesty. And so I think we're not far behind that. I look at the Angel City FC there and Natalie Portman, her leadership, and I've listened to a couple podcasts, and I appreciate the fact that she said, you know what, I did this because it's a business venture and it's profitable. And now they have had to be unique and creative in making it profitable, but they have. So the markets are there. So my hope is the game is marketable and the sport is why it's successful. And there's obviously some great people behind it doing some heavy lifting. But I don't know if we need anyone at the end of the day. And, I think if just given the right platform, it will be self-sustained. And like I said, I think the markets are there.
Well, Calgary is going to have a women's pro soccer team here in a couple of years. Yeah. I believe it's 2026 that Project 8 is kicking off. But you mentioned watching LPGA over the weekend, some Wimbledon. Are you going to be watching World Cup this summer? Oh, yeah, I watch it all. Like, I'm such a sports junkie, like all of us on this call. So, yeah, I'll certainly be watching that as well. And, again, it's such great soccer. And obviously our Canadian women are so strong. And, we talk about Poulin, but you think of Sinclair and, her longevity and impact in just sport. So I'm a big fan of hers too. So, I'll watch that crew and certainly be sending the vibes their way, the good vibes their way.
My apologies, because I'm going back to the previous topic just for a second, Carla, because I have you here and I've never been able to really have this conversation on the air with anybody. We're talking about a new league, but from a developmental standpoint, do we need to be talking about a new system in the sense, at least on the men's side, you have the ECHL, the American Hockey League, and the National Hockey League, knowing how big the player pool is. I never hear this conversation about a development or a feeder league. Does women's hockey need that?
I think we would benefit from it. I think trying to get one league off the ground is a challenge. So
for sure,
probably early on, our European leagues will continue to serve a great purpose in the sport in continuing to foster growth and development, and not just of a second tier. I don't mean to say it that way. I think they're very, very much there's premier leagues over there as well. Obviously, if we can consolidate the world's best talent into one, that would then open up opportunities in those leagues for others to go play over there. So the addition of one league might actually naturally create that mechanism where you've got some feeder systems, maybe not as linear as the AHL to the NHL, but opportunities are there. Again, 6 new teams is, that's a lot of spots that we're now starting to open up that weren't there 3 months ago. So, I think it's all a steady process. I would like to think, yes, of course, one day that's where it'll be, that you come out of college, if you're not quite at the pro level, you can still play the game. That's the most disappointing part about women's hockey right now, is if you're not on the national team, we actually end up leaving the sport before we hit our peak. We're peaking at 25, 26, 27 years old, but we're quitting at 22, 23, 24 because there's no place to play, or there's no money to be had. So I would like to be able to extend our career similar to the guy side, where you could play till you're 30 and make a living. And it doesn't mean you have to be, super wealthy, but you can afford to live. So that would be my long-term goal, is just allowing the women to get to a level where they get to play at their prime a little longer. Right now they're getting pushed out too early.
I just want to stay on this theme for a second, because we're talking about players. Now I want to talk about coaches. I heard you speak in Calgary last fall. Are you still aspirational to be a head coach in that league?
I'm aspirational to continue to grow women's hockey. And, for me right now, like where I'm at with the Dinos and Czech and the opportunities I have, I couldn't be more grateful. And so the fact that I'm in the women's game and I get opportunities like today where I get to chat with you guys for 40 minutes about something I love, I feel like I'm in a great spot. Never say never. I think the opportunities and things, I didn't know I was going to be coaching the Dinos, and I didn't know I was going to be coaching Czech, never mind at the same time. So you never know kind of where life will take you. But I just want to continue to help this game and be a part of the game, because it's been so good to me. So, I just think if I could be in the game in some capacity, I loved my TSN work too. I love the broadcasting side. So to me, I'm just trying to stay in the game, stay relevant within the game, and keep learning. Where that will take me, I'm not sure.
So as someone who's, again, just completely over the moon and enthusiastic about what you brought to coaching and how we've been able to watch it, the clips, the championships, the coaching seminars that you've done. I've also been somebody who thinks you should have been in the conversation for coaching positions at the American Hockey League, the Western Hockey League, and the NHL. Have you had opportunities to coach on the men's side?
Thank you for saying that. No, never have I been reached out to.
Really?
So,
that's disappointing. That is disappointing to me. Really, it is disappointing to me that the game is not, at a point. It seems like we're still, and I hate to use this word because I know there's lots of really good women that are doing jobs, Rebecca Johnson with the Flames and everything like that. But the fact that bothers me, because your work has been out there for the world to see. And we seem, again, back to the institutional of the sport, seem to be a little bit too worried about the gender specific stuff. And well, has she ever coached me? Again, talking to a player rather than down to a player, it's absolutely brain dead to me that this hasn't happened. I'm sorry, but that's how I feel.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm going to sign you up as my agent once this thing's
no
done.
problem.
Yeah, you're in, Rob. I think there's a few things within that, and I agree. It's a little bit unfortunate in a lot of ways that we just don't have a bigger scope of understanding of what diversity brings to everything in life.
Yep.
You know, I kind of face two sort of comes to coaching men is one, you know, well, you have no experience. Well, it's because nobody's been given any opportunity. So it's not, and it's not lack of experience. It's just not in the men's game. And then the other thing that's funny, I had a conversation not long ago was, well, you know, could you coach men? And I thought, do we ever ask, can a man coach a woman? We never question that. And all of a sudden now the question can come the other way. So to me, until somebody in the right role can understand that humans, it's a human coaching a human. You know, like we're just not there, not in our sport. Because there have been ample opportunities for women to be included in conversations and dialogues, and you know, why not have a conversation just to see what the perspective is? But it's not, the game's not at that point, not that I've seen. And to your point, there have been other avenues where women have entered into the NHL, and it's been great. But yeah, it feels like there's just quite a few hurdles still on the coaching side.
I mean, when we were out at the U Sports Gala a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to Brenda Willis about her experiences as a university volleyball coach on the men's side. And she said, like, back then, like, she had 2 players just not come back after the first practice, but she's still standing.
Yeah, that's good. And Rob, you've heard me say this before, and I've said it at the World Championship too. Like, the other thing I think is really important is, you know, for whatever reason, for probably all the same reasons, you know, often women aren't validated as whatever their role is until it's tethered to the men's game. And, you know, I'm trying to carve out respect and sort of an expertise while doing it in the women's game. I don't believe we have to be in the men's game to be seen and heard as experts in the field. And that's a big piece for me. And I think often it's, you know, things aren't great until, oh, they're in the NHL, or, oh, it's a woman on a man's bench. You know, I can't wait for the day where it's just not even a conversation. Just go find the right fit and go coach where it best suits you. And that'll be a great day.
But understand, mine's never coming from you need it to be, you know, to qualified. It's a barometer of the institution of the sport. And we haven't even touched on what's happened at Hockey Canada over the last 18 months. We could talk about what's happening on the, you know, Soccer Canada. We're watching our institutions crumble in front of us, and they seem to be antiquated, and there seems to be box checking, and there seems to be tokenism where it fits. But true change, you're a barometer of true change. That's what I think.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And I know your take, so I knew you weren't alluding to that, but yeah. And you know what, at the end of the day, when things crumble, hopefully they're built better the next time. And that's what we can hope for. And to your point, you just got to get the right people with the right mindset to build again. And quite often the remodel can be nicer than the original.
Now, the most important and hard-hitting question we will ask you of this entire interview. What do one-on-one lessons cost? Because Cami has made the determination that she's going to play this fall. So we are looking for some of the best coaching we could possibly get. Yeah.
No, I'll follow up on an email there, Cami, and just give you the rates, a little breakdown. No, you sign me up. I'll be your line mate. Where are you playing? We can go up there and go enjoy beer
Silver
league together.
Springs rink. Silver Springs ODR. It's actually the Haley Wickenheiser rink.
There we go. I'll get us some 22 jerseys and we'll go at it. Good on you.
Perfect. I'm going to sharpen up the tax.
Fantastic.
I had one hard-hitting question as well, actually. Wildly off topic. Carla, who is the most famous person in your phone?
Ooh.
That's a good question. Deep down, I don't know off the top of my head. Obviously, my teammates, I would consider some of them highly, highly famous, so I would have their numbers.
I know who I think I know who the most famous person is that Carla has ever shared the ice with. I think I know it.
You do know that, Rob.
You're going to say yourself, Rob?
Nope, not me. I was there, though. I was there.
Through Heroes Hockey, when Garth Brooks' World Tour came through Calgary. I don't know how many years ago, maybe about 5 years ago, maybe.
It felt like yesterday, but it's been a while.
Arm. Yeah, it has been. anyway, so we ran the ice session, and before we knew it, we looked over and there was Garth Brooks standing on the ice. So all of us got to spend some time with Garth, and obviously he spent some time with the kids. And as a country fan and a big Garth Brooks fan, it was definitely a moment I'll never forget. That picture's up on the wall in my house. There's no doubt about it. So it was a pretty good day, Rob, and got to go to the
it was
concert later that
surreal.
night,
It
and
was,
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
it was surreal. And, you know, Garth doesn't get enough credit for this, but he does this when he does these, you know, it was a week-long residency, whatever you're going to call it, Calgary, but he brings up a coach and they did it all under nobody knew about it, right? They just quietly, and they brought in kids, but they weren't quite ready for hockey. I think they could have run a really good football camp, probably a really good baseball camp, but but there's this guy, you know, baseball cap and running shoes and jeans, just standing out at center ice, and lo and behold, it's arguably the most famous country music star of all time.
Yeah, best-selling solo artist in history of music. So, and he was standing on the ice with us, and it was great. Cami, you would have chuckled because we had all these beginner hockey players out there through Heroes, and I was standing by Garth for the bulk of it, and I was kind of running his backside, right? Like I didn't want anyone coming in and taking out Garth Brooks, so I was constantly watching behind him to stop any kid that might have fallen. I was like, he's not going to fall on my watch. Garth Brooks is not going down today. So anyway, it's pretty special moment for
and
sure.
A nice guy.
Yeah, those kids would not discriminate.
Super.
Like, if your head's not up,
oh yeah,
go.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, just really a nice, down to earth guy.
Yeah.
How were the kids with that?
Very
Because I know,
special.
like, we've seen NHL alumni come out, and honestly, the kids they're more excited to see Tatum Amy and the university coaches.
Well,
a lot of the time,
Philippe was there. Sorry, not Philippe. Who was there from the women's side? Because was
we
Rebecca
had Poulin and Clark. Emily Clark was there.
Yeah, and Philippe Poulin was there. Yeah, Emily Clark was there.
Yeah.
But Versteeg and Brouwer, was that right? Does that sound right?
That's
From the
correct.
Flames?
Yeah.
But
but
I don't think the kids knew who Garth was.
No, just the volunteers did.
Yeah, it was.
And I was in
pretty
heaven. Yeah, I was.
Yeah, it was really cool. Listen, this has been fantastic. You're taking time out of a well-earned vacation to do this, so we really appreciate it. But it's since Cami and I have been working on this, you have been the guest that we wanted to get, and it was non-negotiable. This was never, Cami can't come on, so it'll just be Rob. This was always going to be a two-person interview, and I really appreciate it. But I cannot thank you enough. Because again, here we are talking about Garth Brooks showing up. You show up Sunday mornings for Superheroes Kids, and it's funny, we show that video of you on the bench with, the check, and it's the same. You're the same person with our Heroes Kids. It's fantastic, and I appreciate that. But I've always been a big fan, that, and thank you for making some time for us.
Well, it's been my pleasure as always. And again, I don't think you guys kind of get the reverb of that enough. How you share the story of sport in our community and your investment in it, and not only that, the charity side of our community, and you're bolstering it and finding great platforms to do it. So, often it's just a one-way dialogue, but I hope for you guys, you both know the impact you've had, not only on me and what I do and sharing the stories of what we do, but more importantly, just growing the community and maybe even more important than that, connecting the community. So thank you for the work that you both do.
Oh, thank you so much.
Aloha.
Aloha.
All right.
See you at the rink.
See you later.
Also, people, September 29th, home opener. Go cheer on the Dinos. Father David Bauer. The parking's not as bad as it looks. And the rink fries there are great. Those are some of the best rink fries in Calgary.
This is why I love you.
This is why
you are the best.
We should do a grand ranking.
This is why I love you. You are the best. I am all angry, upset, and you are the calming influence. Like I am. How in the name of God's green earth does nobody give her a call and go, would you be interested? Can we talk? We don't know if this would work.
Which is crazy.
Why don't you come down and, at least have a conversation with us? And it's,
because we have like our Danielle Fujitas with the Flames, and she's unreal, by the way. She was a huge part of getting Michael Stone back when he was dealing with the spot. And she was working with Juuso Välimäki. She said he was one of the most malleable maybe isn't the right word, but he was a great player to work with, and he was super flexible. He wasn't skating with his friends. He would get on like FaceTime with her when he was back at home overseas and, you know, still going through her drills and stuff. But you do see like the Moose Jaw Warriors had Olivia Howe, and a lot of national team coaches have told me they like to have female coaches with some of the younger boys because there's just a different attention to detail in the game, especially when you take checking out of it, where they just feel like this is the most efficient way for them to learn.
But it's, again, it's, you know, and it's certainly not a knock against, you know, anybody coaching at the international level, but nobody ever says, you know, should a guy coach women? No, probably not. But the other way, it's ridiculous. It's right there for the world to see. The video you showed, which was 5 minutes in length, we only showed 20 seconds of it. There's all kind, you know, we're dealing in this whole time of, you know, the athlete has changed. The requirements have changed. You can't coach the way you used to coach. And here's someone who's doing it right out in the open for everybody to see. Right out in the open. And yet, nobody.
I think we got a superstar at the door.
Oh, no, she can come in.
Get in here, girl.
I was looking at my phone thinking, she's not here yet. I hope she didn't get lost, because that used to be a common thing, too. By the way, Carla, brought to you by the Ski Cellar Snowboard, skicellarsnowboard.com. 76 years in Calgary. We are live in the Oodle Noodle studio. We bring the heat.
I mean, how good would a pad thai be from the Oodle Noodle locations down on 17th or in Airdrie after a tough night at the Stampede?
Again, that's the second reason I love you. I don't even need to finish. You got it.
And lemongrass chicken is the best.
It is it?
They do it. Yeah. Next time you go, lemongrass.
I don't know. Is it hot?
No.
Okay. I kind of like it. You know, not burning, but I don't mind it.
Well, they do bring the heat, Rob.
They do bring the heat. We go right back, and very pleased as this show has got quite a feeling to it today, and it's not going to change. We go to our next guest, brought to you by Ski Cellar Snowboard, skicellarsnowboard.com. 76 years in Calgary. Now, 4 locations in the winter, none open right now, but they will reopen very soon, probably within the matter of months to 6 weeks, because the next ski season will be on us soon. So if you need to dream or perhaps, take a look around, go to the website, skicellarsnowboard.com. You can always be thinking about the fall. Very pleased to have, we go from the best coach in one of the best coaches in U Sports to the best player in U Sports in women's hockey, Tatum Amy, kind enough to join us here today. Mount Royal's all-time leading scorer. How does that, I mean, of all the accolades, when you leave an institution and you're the all-time leading scorer, how does that make you feel?
It's obviously great, but it's not as good as the national championship.
It isn't, eh?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, you want that team thing, not the individual recognition.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go with that. How does it feel to be a national champion?
There's still no words, honestly. It's been a few months now, and there hasn't been a moment that I've been able to watch the whole game again, just because I get too worked up and too excited even thinking about it. Butterflies, I mean, it's still coming up. I go to MRU to work out every day, and I see the banner hanging there, and it's just surreal.
I mean, it was like a hiccup away from the game being over when Brianne Trotter tied it up. What was your POV on that goal, her second goal of that game?
Yeah, it was actually, I was screening. So I got a great view of that puck going into the net. So I was definitely out of breath. It was hard to get from the net to the flyby, but it was it was a relief feeling for sure of it just going in and knowing that we were going to go to overtime.
What was the setup like to that play? Do you remember it, or is it just a play that a breakdown happened, the play happens, or what was that last? Because those moments in time, especially late in the game, I mean, it's one thing to tie a game in the second period, but when you do it where you did it, how much of that do you remember? What were those final moments like?
Yeah, I remember being behind the net with Courtney Coleman and battling for the puck, and both of us were just kind of saying, get it to the net. And we knew there was around 10 seconds left at that point. Athena Hauk had the puck near the tops of the circle, and then Bree just kind of whacked it in. I don't think you can draw that up. That's strictly an amazing shot on her part. So, yeah.
Relief, excitement, what goes through your head at that moment?
A little bit of relief because, as I said, I was a little bit tired. Had been on for quite some time, but then just over the moon exciting.
Yeah.
And then Emma seals the deal like in overtime. Like she had an unbelievable year. What was she was just recognized.
The Norwegian Gold Star, I believe that was the award. Yeah, I mean, fully deserved. She kills it with us this whole entire year and her whole career, and then also goes to play with Team Norway and kills it there. So she deserves it.
What were the celebrations like after you got off the ice?
Yeah, so I mean, it lasted a long time. It lasted for weeks after, to be honest. But our friends and family booked a little pub for us near the hotel, and I got there a little bit later. I had some stuff to take care of right after the game, but entering that pub with the whole team, all the girls kind of were there for me to get there, and it's something I play in my mind all the time. Videos, photos, I'm constantly still looking through them all. It was the game was great. You know, you work so hard to get there and to finally accomplish what you work for all year, but the memories afterwards in those moments, that's what I continuously cherish.
Is it true that you guys almost broke the trophy?
Maybe. Off record, no, but we didn't break it, but it's been through everything. It goes everywhere with us, where like that week after it was carried around quite often.
We were just talking to Carla MacLeod about in 2010 when the team was criticized so much for celebrating after their Olympic gold medal with a couple beers and cigars.
Yes.
I mean, you were super young then, but what do you remember about that?
Honestly, I would guess I would have been around 10 years old. It's funny you say that because all I remember is just them winning and watching and watching how much it means to some of those women just to work so hard and finally accomplish that. That's all I remember, right? I don't remember saying, oh, what are they doing with some beers? What does that mean?
10-year-old Tatum wasn't saying, I've been corrupted and this is a disgrace.
Absolutely not. Seeing the gold medal around their neck, that's all that I remember and what I wanted to chase, right?
Now that you have a little bit of time to look back and I guess put some closure on this, what a career. I mean, at Mount Royal, I mean, just things that you would have never guessed or never prepared for. I guess the best place to start is because COVID would have been almost right smack dab in the middle, right? Very close.
Yes. For me.
Yeah.
Yes, it was in the middle.
Yeah. And how did that impact you?
Quite heavily at the beginning. It was it canceled our national championship run that year. I went home right after that national championship, and I think that took a big beating on a lot of people. I had felt super confused and lost, and what are we going to do? You know, it's super unfair that, you know, our we were doing so well, won our first game there. I had nothing but good feelings going into that tournament with that group, and just thinking of the grads that year having to take their jersey off for the last time, not knowing it was their last time. I felt for them for sure. I think that moment also made me appreciate what was to come way more than I had normally. You wouldn't really hear me complain about any other 7 a.m. workouts or practices after that. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Just because you just never know what's going to happen. But getting to nationals this past year and having a couple of the alumni that were at EI with us, that was amazing.
At any point in time, and I'm thinking more of, you know, the spring of 2020, did you think maybe it was over? Hockey was over?
No, I have high hopes, and I mean, the team, we got to practice a few times, so there was a little bit, we get teased, right? We get to go on the ice sometimes, then get taken off, and so no, I don't think it was over. I didn't have that thought. No.
The groups of 10, were you ever part of those where you could only have 10 on the ice and a coach, or
groups of one?
Groups of one, yeah. And to persevere through that, right?
Yeah.
Again, your words, not mine, but to make it sweeter, right? When it's all said and done.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. what do you remember? Or what will you remember when you put your head down and you go to sleep about that championship?
Yeah, a lot of things, I guess. I think that just simply the team itself, the environment that I feel lucky to have been a part of this whole season, and just how everyone just grabbed the bull by the horns and said, "Yeah, no, we're gonna do this." We were full of pride and
Mhm.
belief that we were meant to be there, although a lot of others maybe didn't think so. And the underdog word came up a lot, but for me personally, I never saw that group as that at all. So I think just the relationships, just with that, that national championship team is going to be with me forever.
Is
He
there
ticked off a lot of big boxes that year
Yeah.
because he also won the Crow Child Classic with Caitlin and her shutout.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, that was what I was going to ask. I mean, that's the end of the journey, but that season, was there ever was there a turning point? Was there a cross, a fork in the road? Was there anything as you look back on, 2023, 22, 23, was there any, behind the scenes, drama or anything that may have derailed this?
Well, for me personally, I dislocated my shoulder in January, which took me out of the FISU games, which was super disappointing.
Sure.
But as far as the team goes, we got swept by U of A, we got swept by U of M. So it was kind of a 2-week streak, not in our favor. But honestly, you look at the entire season and all of that happened for a reason.
Mhm.
That means we finished third. That means, it just kind of goes, it's a domino effect. So I think that, no, I can't really think of a huge bump in the road for us. And I
Okay.
think I see it as everything had to happen the way it did, even losing against UBC, that set us up for who we played at nationals. So I think it all happened to lead us to where we got to.
It's funny. It's kind of the same way for Brianna, isn't it? Coming back from an injury and not being so sure what her role would be and ending up playing one of the biggest ones.
Yeah. I mean, she came in right when we needed her, right? Just when games start to get a little bit closer and the season sort of builds up. And I mean, it looked like nothing had happened to her and she just kind of slid in right where she left off.
And then you get named Canada West Player of the Year. And then we hear, the correct thing, that Tatum Amy is going to play professional hockey in North America. Can you take me through how those conversations came about? Like, did the Buttes reach out to you? Like, how does that all happen?
So I have to give a huge shout out to my agent, Lander Cook with LDC Talent. He has been amazing throughout this entire journey of mine. So I signed with him, and from there, he kind of took care of everything. He got me a great deal with the Buttes, and so he made it easy.
And then we know what happened last week with the announcement of a new league being formed. The PWHPA will disband. The PHF will disband. What first went through your mind when you heard that news, like the good and the bad?
Yeah, so I got the call that was happening, and I had to hop on a meeting really quick. And I sort of thought, well, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Because, it could be good. It could be fine. Everything could be fine. Hop on the call, and I hear that sort of everything's changing, and I am no longer a Butte. My contract's voided. Obviously, I was devastated because the last couple months I've got to short-lived be a professional hockey player officially. I think that there's a lot of unknown, and I think that that's the scariest part. Me being someone who is a first time into this league, first contract, I don't really know what it's all about yet. So I was still sort of learning. And I heavily feel for some of the players that have been there since the beginning. And this is all changing again for them after all they've built. So it's devastating, but I know deep down, in the long run, it's going to be really great for the women's game.
It's tough. Yeah. Because I know there are some women, I think it was Sarah Lafleur, who bought a house in the market anticipating playing there with a big contract. People who bought cars, signed leases. Yeah. Did you have any of that done at that point?
No, I hadn't done that. Yeah. So I was definitely one of the lucky ones, right? So you got to feel for those players.
So what happens going forward? Have they communicated whether there will be a tryout process for people who had contracts, anything like that?
Nothing concrete yet. No. I think there's still moving parts and it's still all up in the air. So just have to wait and see, go with the flow.
Well, yeah, it's easy to say that, but you and I had coffee a couple weeks ago. We were talking about when you were going to Buffalo and, the preparation. Now, even, we assume there might be something in the new year, but what are you doing in terms of training? What are you doing in terms of preparation? How do you keep motivated?
I think for me personally, as long as I get to play hockey, I'm going to be a happy gal. So I think that's my motivation, is just, I've worked so hard to get to this next step. I just have to keep going. At the end of the day, I will find a place to play, and because I know I'm going to work that hard. And I think that's what's been keeping me, get to the gym, get to the ice when you can. I think that's probably the strongest, best mindset I can probably go with right now. Confident
that you'll be playing in the new league, or confident that you'll have a place to play?
Just have a place to play.
Okay.
That's my little motivation right now. It's just anywhere I can play at this point, I'll be extremely happy about.
Would that include Europe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there are options presenting themselves, or you're confident that there's options going to present themselves?
I think in the beginning, when I was really breaking things down, I'm one player. There's also hundreds now of other players looking to decide what they want to do, if there's going to be spots for them, even in Europe at this point. I mean, it's the 10th of July. Roster spots fill up quickly. It's a great league out there. There's lots of great leagues out there. So I think that all you can do is just hope and reach out to as many players and coaches and GMs and just see what's going on and just hope that you can play somewhere.
When's the last time you weren't on a team?
COVID. I mean, like,
yeah, but you're still part of Mount Royal. Like now, you're kind of a woman without a country in a way, right? Like,
that's fair. Yeah, I guess never. I've never, had nowhere to play going into a hockey season.
Yeah.
So it is crazy to think about.
Are you able to share, or are you in conversation with other players in similar situation?
Yeah, I've chatted with a few players, and I think we're all just sort of, it's been good to talk to other players because that's ultimately, they are going through the same things you are. So it's easy to talk to, other coaches and your parents and friends, but the other players going through the same thing, it's been great to lean on them. I think that no one really knows the right answer or what to do, right? Because a lot of players are like me, they just want to play.
Right.
So
you said earlier that it's good for the game. Is it good for the game because that's what a hockey player is supposed to say, or do you really believe that it's good for the game long term?
No, I think it is good for the game long term. I mean, there's two leagues, and I don't even think that everyone or people not involved with hockey even understood what that meant. They saw two leagues and they didn't know what that meant. But now, combining the two, it's very easier. It's much easier to get fans involved and young girls, setting that goal for one league instead of saying, oh, I can go here, I can go there. There's just that one option. I think that over time and as it builds, it will be great.
Had you heard
for people who just haven't seen how it all breaks down? Right now, the report is that there will be 6 teams divided by Canada and the States. The PHF had 7 teams, and the PWHPA had, was it 3 or 4? It was 3.
4.
Yeah. Added one this year. So that's a lot of players who were on those rosters who will be looking for work now.
Well, and there's the little things, the little details. You were talking about Europe. Starting a league in the new year isn't really, conducive to, what if you do take a job over there, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's from now till then, it is a long time.
Yeah.
Right. But they're, they still haven't announced everything. There could be a lot more coming in between now and then that we don't know about.
Oh, absolutely. And I guess what I was just going to ask is if you had any inkling that this was coming. I mean, for me, and I'm not in the sport, but it just came right out of the blue, right?
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Yeah, it was very out of the blue.
Wow. I mean, we've talked, you and I have talked about how necessary this was, but it doesn't feel right in a way. Like right's the wrong word, but it feels so damn awkward. The whole thing, right? Like it should be a celebration. It should be like moving forward, and now we're left guessing, and it just, to me, it's awkward.
Yeah, I think the most, as you say, awkward piece about it is just the timing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Lots of those we signed. I was going to go to Buffalo in a couple of months. Right. So I think the timing obviously is hard. But it is what it is at this point. And I think if anything has taught me this past year, you know, especially with my injury in my shoulder, that everything's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Things happen for a reason. One door closes, another is going to open. It's going to be okay.
Are you skating now?
Yeah, here and there.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna see you back on the ice with the superheroes.
If I'm here, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
So
Well,
we were talking
I'm not
about-
even worried about the supers because you're a Thursday volunteer too.
Yes,
So
yeah.
with Heroes in Forest Lawn, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Too. Oh yeah, no, I mean this is the real deal right here. This is absolutely the real deal.
Well, you were saying earlier with Carla, like a lot of the kids don't recognize when NHL alumni or Garth Brooks is on the ice, but they get pumped when you're all there.
Yeah, I mean, every Thursday I go. Some of those kids get to come and watch the Crow Child game. They make me feel so important, and I'm the biggest superstar they've ever seen. So, you know, community service is about giving back, but they've given back to me countless times. Some of those kids, I've made great relationships with many of them that I still talk to. I text sometimes every day. So
yeah.
How far have you seen some of them come since they started playing hockey?
Yeah, so this was my 6th season with the Heroes. I started when I first entered university at MRU, and so some of them have been with me for 6 years. So lots of change. I mean, watching a kid step on the ice for the first time ever, and then seeing them now, it's an amazing experience to be a part of.
Tell me a little bit about, because it's a conversation that you and I had, but I want to share it a little more widely public about using your platform now. You know, you did that for 6 years. You went out and you made these kids' lives better. Tell me about the importance of using your platform and where that comes from. Who ingrained that in you?
I mean, I've had a lot of great mentors in my life. Entering Heroes, Kevin Hodgson, obviously.
Oh no, don't say that. Don't say that.
Has been had a great impact on who I am and how I have been able to grow within the Heroes program and take what I've learned there into other organizations. I've quickly learned through social media after I've made a comment, made a post on just how much impact I do have, and having lots of people reach out to me. So I think, especially after the Pride video I had made, I've had lots of people reach out to me, and I think just quickly realizing, oh, okay, people are listening to me, and now knowing to use my platform, I think it's important for lots of athletes to use it.
For those who haven't seen it, can you tell us about the Pride video?
Yeah, sure. We did it through the PHF. It was just me talking about my coming out journey and how hockey has been a huge part of it. I mean, I couldn't have done it without my teammates and the support from my teammates, and just them being patient with me and growing, and me now being fully comfortable around the rink has been able to allow me to be at my fullest potential as a player.
The world is better with its most authentic Tatum Amy.
Exactly.
So tell me a little bit about the decision to do that. This is an interesting time for Pride, especially in hockey. Your reaction to the NHL's announcement a couple of weeks ago that they weren't going to do jerseys, warm-up jerseys anymore. We all know why. I mean, it wasn't the pushback they got to the veterans jerseys. It wasn't the pushback they got to, Black History Month. It was the pushback they got to the Pride jerseys. How did that make you feel?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess a little offsetting. I think a lot of people were a little shocked by that, right? I mean, anything you can do to make anyone feel comfortable while watching the game. We want everyone to be able to come to an arena and sit down and watch the game and enjoy the game that we all love and feel comfortable while doing so. I think that was a little bit of a step backwards for what I just had said.
Yeah.
Which is disappointing. Hopefully they reevaluate and decide to do otherwise, because I think it loses fans. I mean, they lose that connection with that one piece they had, right? By seeing a rainbow on a jersey, right? So I think that it was definitely a step back.
Especially since Calgary actually had players who stepped forward and said, I want to be a part of this. Like Dylan Dubé said, can I please model the jersey? Yeah. Like Uyghur wanted to be a big part of it. Rasmus Anderson wanted to be a big part of it. And I think it made just a lot of fans feel seen.
Yeah, 100%. it's that connection that that can make with a fan, right? It makes them want to go to the game because they know when they're there, they are accepted. They are also a part of the hockey community.
Well, my apologies if this is going to piss anybody off.
You're
But
not sorry.
Pride. No, I'm not worried about
I already
it
know
at all.
you're not sorry.
I'm not sorry. Pride is not. This isn't a recruitment program. This is about making some young person who's confused or, just they need to feel like they belong. They need to see that. The problem, and nothing against any of the other programs, this is saving lives. That's the one thing that pisses me off the most about this makes a difference. And we chose to walk away from it. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Well, that brought the whole show to a grinding halt. No, it bothers me a little bit, but not a challenge for you to come out and share your story publicly. Not a, no regrets. No, I mean, have you had any, feedback, pushback, or anything?
No, nothing negative at all. I think I've had more people reach out to me and say, "Wow, this is amazing. I'm super proud of you." It's disappointing now that the PHF is folded and that video is probably lost in somewhere. But
my hope is you'll get to do it again at the new in the new team.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think maybe if you're not following what the discourse has been like this season, you might not know how many wonderful queer fans there are in the NHL. Brock McGillis did a great project last year before, but they interviewed hundreds of fans from all across the alphabet to share their stories, like the good, the bad, the ugly, about what it's been like being in the hockey space, which sometimes doesn't feel as accepting as other sports. But it's been wonderful to hear everyone's perspectives, because at the end of the day, like, what's the one true thing that you see through every single video? Everyone loves hockey.
Yeah. But that's why this show is pissing me off now, because I have the two guests I wanted in the coast I wanted. Now I'm mad. We had Carla MacLeod on, and I assumed that the world has watched what Carla has done, that somebody would have reached out, WHL, AHL, NHL, and said, "Hey, can we talk?" Nope, not one. It's ridiculous. It's okay. Nobody asks a question if a man wants to coach a women's team, but God forbid a woman coach a man's team, right? And then here we are. You have, the strength of character to stand up for what you believe in and talk. And the sport at the highest, quote unquote, highest level says, it's a wee bit too much of an inconvenience, so we're not going to do this anymore. Like, I love the sport, but the sport needs a kick in the ass. Am I wrong?
Loving sports when they don't love you back sometimes.
It's the institutionalism of it all. Like, there's so much institutionalism we have to still rally against.
Yeah.
Right? Your day job, you work for Kids Sport.
Yes.
Right? We shouldn't have to have Kids Sport. I'm glad we do. I'm glad we have the sports bank. I don't get me wrong. I'm really glad we do. But it should be a right of a child to be able to play a sport. It shouldn't be a privilege, right? And again, here we are battling against this institutional. It's not a question. It's just me off on a tangent again.
What does your day-to-day look like at Kids Sport?
Yeah, so I'm solely in charge of the application process. So I work a lot alongside families who are in need of some funding to put their children in sport.
What reaction do you get when someone's been approved for funding?
It's a big one, in a lot of excitement, a lot of thank yous. People, it's great to, in my position, I get to, be a part of the process to approve these families, and then also watch them come into the Flames equipment bank and watch them get fitted in their equipment. And the smiles on the kids' faces are just priceless. You can't get it anywhere else.
It must be just pure dopamine at the sports bank when kids are getting fitted.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can't hear enough laughter and smiles, and just, the curiosity of, how some of it's very new, and it's the first time that they're receiving their very first soccer ball or their very first, pair of cleats, anything like that. So it's amazing.
One of the things that I don't know if Kids Sport ever talks about enough, and you would deal with it, is that, the families we help are not making a conscious decision. Like, they're in a situation, and to ask for help sometimes is hard, right? Sometimes it can be hard. Like, I know how you operate, but part of what makes you so special is not making them feel like they're an inconvenience or anything like that, that they're part of the sport, right?
Yeah.
That's what you have to do.
For sure. I mean, even for myself personally, it's sometimes hard to ask for help. So I think you can have anyone alongside, just supporting you through that and making it seem like it's okay, and which it is okay to ask for help. I think it goes a long way.
You brought up something very interesting with Carla that I think we should bring up with Tatum, which is NCAA versus U Sport. Did you ever have to make a decision?
No, I was strictly Canada. I wanted to stay here, so I never had to go down that route.
Yeah. Short and sweet, nice and easy.
Well, yeah, I know,
like, yeah.
But how do we get more people? Which is as long as I've been in the business, we've had this. Oh, it's the best kept secret. Oh, it's this, it's that. We all know that about U Sport, but how do we get people to start treating the level of hockey with the respect that it deserves?
Yeah, I mean, I've learned even just throughout my quick process with the PHF, there are a lot of players in the NCAA that are more highlighted than athletes in U Sports. I mean, I've had interviews that I've been compared to, that U Sports has been compared to NCAA many times. I mean, I've never played in the NCAA. I've known players that played there. I don't think I've watched enough to say they're like this and they're even, they're level. I'd like to think so. I mean, I've watched MRU grow over the past 6 years. I know Canada West is a strong league. I mean, Carla said it herself. It is a strong league to play in.
Yep.
So I don't know the answer for that either. I think that everyone finds their place to play. I mean, Mount Royal was mine, and I'm extremely happy I went with it. But everyone transfers, they go through different teams within a league that they just need to find their place. And when you do, and it's a perfect fit, then it's going to be good.
Why did you want to stay in Canada?
I think I love the idea of my family being able to drive up and watch me play as many times as they could. And just with school at the time, I wasn't sure what I was going to be taking and how it would transfer back over, and et cetera. So,
what did you end up taking?
Physical literacy was my major, and
Right.
sport and recreation management was my minor.
Okay. Oh, David Legge.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Kevin Hodgson to David Legge. You can't do a show without them coming up somehow, somewhere in the conversation. No, which is when you continue your hockey journey, you will end up playing against players who were at prominent NCAA schools and things like that. That's not an intimidation or anything like that. I mean, right?
No. If anything, it's impressive, right? You get to experience just a different skill level, right? I mean, I know what Canada West looks like. I have no idea what half the NCAA teams look like. So it's a fun challenge.
Another thing Carla mentioned is that right now, once you're done with university, for many, many players, there aren't a lot of options. Like, guys can even go down to the SPHL.
Yeah.
And do commercials for Waffle House and make $300 a week.
Right.
But a lot of female players don't get to play at a high level when they're actually at their peak at like 26, 27, 28. Where do you feel like you're at in your game right now?
Yeah, I guess I would say that, graduating from MRU and finishing there, that I do feel I'm ready for a new challenge. I feel I've grown and I've developed as a player, and I think that I'm ready for a new challenge, if that makes sense.
Haven't hit the peak yet?
No, I don't think so.
So that being the key, if you're not at your peak, what part of your game or what parts of your game continue to develop? Where do you think you could get better as a pro?
Well, I think heading into the PHF season, for me, my main focus is to develop this summer was just speed. And I was going to be playing against women that are much older than I am, 4 or 5 years old, that are strictly muscle and just probably a lot more stronger than I am. So I think just, growing and building my speed and power, that was is my main focus going forward.
Yeah.
Did you learn on figure skates or hockey skates? Because I know some coaches say that people who start with the figure skates, sometimes the strides are just kind of already there.
No, I've always hockey skates. Yeah, since I started.
Lucky.
Yeah.
There's no girls hockey in my hometown.
Because you're
enjoy
from
figure
Manitoba,
skating.
right?
Yes, I am from Manitoba.
Okay.
Yeah.
So small town or big city Manitoba?
Small town, 600-700 people.
Okay.
Yeah.
So outdoor rinks?
No, we have
No. I mean, not to suggest there weren't. I just meant, did you? I just don't think we have that outdoor rink, in our DNA like we used to, right?
Right.
Where Saturdays were, not to suggest there wasn't a Quonset or something. No.
Well, climate change.
Boy, I'm having a bad day. This thing's just going south. Did you play always on all girl teams, or were you on boys teams too growing up?
No, I was on all boys teams until my parents and their friends actually just created an all female team.
Oh,
I think I was maybe 10. It was the classic. My mom was the manager and my dad was the coach, and that was how the first all female team started in Oodle. So it was pretty awesome.
Yeah. Did you like it, or I mean, they wanted it, but did you want it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I still played with the boys at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So I was on double team for quite some time.
Okay.
Which I think is why I got to where I am today, is just playing as much as I could with lots of different skill sets, and, playing on the all girls team versus the all boys team. And the all girls team at the time, it was different skill sets, because we actually recruited some figure skaters into coming to playing hockey at the time. So, which are still some of my closest friends. So
sounds like a Disney Channel movie,
right? That seems like a movie for sure.
What advice do you have for a 10-year-old girl now who dreams of being a pro hockey player?
I think it's cliche for sure, but just work extremely hard. And there's going to be a lot of times where things don't go your way, but like I said earlier, one door closes, another one's going to open. And if you just stay true to yourself and you work as hard as you possibly can, someone's going to notice.
Is it too early to ask you if coaching is interesting to you?
Well, I actually was in the Hockey Canada mentorship coaching program the last 2 years.
Okay.
So I coached alongside Kyle Severson with the AAA Calgary Fire team.
Okay.
So yeah, that was an amazing experience. I mean, some of those girls are amazing hockey players, and Kyle Severson's a great coach to be mentored by. So it was a great experience.
They did a great year. They were second at the Maddie Schwartz, weren't they?
Yes. Yeah. They did awesome.
Tell me about tell me about that mentorship program. And why was it important for you to take that on along with Heroes Hockey in school and your club team? I mean, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, I wanted to dip my toes in seeing what was maybe going to be something that was next for me. Basically, what happens is we meet monthly with the other athletes in the program that are in youth sports as well. So we kind of connect and get to talk about, what happened in their week for practices. If you ran a practice and it went horribly, you got to talk to them about that. So I just got to basically hang out with the Calgary Fire and also be connected with lots of great youth sports athletes as well.
Did that change anything for you as a player? When you have to stop and, run drills or look at it from that, does that impact you as a player?
Yes, I think as a player and then also as a leader within my team on how to sort of approach every individual sees things differently, whether that be visual, with words, just depends on who you are. And I think as a leader, bringing that with my line mates, how explaining to them how we could have done something different. I think that really helped me and how I want to be a leader. Yeah.
I think that's fantastic. So it could be something down the road.
Yes, I think so. I think not quite yet. I'm definitely still in player mode. I think that I found that sometimes even with the Calgary Fire, I was still, I wanted to be, alongside them in their full equipment at times. So I think I'm definitely still in player mode.
So you wouldn't have grown up with them, but from Manitoba, Jets fan?
Surprisingly, no.
Right.
Yeah, my family is a huge hockey family. We never really had that one team we would cheer for. So it's kind of nice just, watching hockey just because we all enjoy it.
It sounds a lot less stressful. That sounds lovely.
It is. Let me tell you, it is lovely.
I don't know what stress you could possibly be talking about.
I tried to riot. I tried to single-handedly riot in my small town in BC in 2011. That was a horrible day.
Yes.
And it really disappointed me that I liked Milan Lucic a lot when he was here. He's one of my favorite people to deal with.
That's awesome.
Well, you got your go home question?
Who's the most famous person in your phone?
I heard you ask Carla this question, and I was like, oh, I don't really have that many famous people, I don't think. Oh, I don't know. I have some national team players in there. I've got Micah Zandy Hart and Brianne Jenner.
Hey,
well.
oh, I love Brianne Jenner.
Yeah, she was her and Micah both were some of our assistant coaches over the last few years now. So it's great having them out there and building those relationships for sure, especially now with all this going forward.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Micah's been a great shoulder to lean on and an ear for me. So it's been awesome.
it's good. I'm glad they're there for you in
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're, I mean, we've thrown a lot at you. There's a lot to talk to you. But do you feel like you're on a hamster wheel? Do you feel like you're going downhill on marbles and roller skates? Do you feel like everything's right in front of you? Where are you at right now? I mean, a lot has transpired in a short period of time.
Yes. Yeah. It's been crazy. I mean, hockey sort of is that way. Things change like that. The game, within the game. I think that for me, this year has taught me just take a breath, one step forward, everything, it's okay to have a moment, because I definitely did hearing the news. But
Sure.
I think after that, moving forward, I'm just going to keep working hard, and I know I'll get somewhere.
Well, it's been a lot of fun watching you. I really,
Oh, it's been a blast covering you. Like, the team
There
was
you
so
go.
fun. It was wonderful to have the trophy in studio. So even going back to the COVID season, like the expectations were just so high that year. And even Pro Child Classic this year, you're running into the alumni still coming out to support. So thank you. It's been a blast, front beginning to end, basically.
and to me, it's more about the heroes and using your platform and I, you're obviously on the ice, you're a role model, but I love the fact that you're also, to me, the role model for what an empowered female athlete should be and can be. It's funny, we have that conversation with Carla about how they got into trouble for drinking beers and smoking cigars after. That's because you can have equality, but as long as we're okay with it, we got to be comfortable with it. I just love the fact that, you have a platform and you choose to use it and you're making our community better. So Tatum, congratulations on the championship and all the accolades. And I know you're going to land on your feet. I just feel terrible for you because I know how excited you were to go to Buffalo. So thank you for coming in and spending some time with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's been an honor.
Well, I don't know about an honor. Well, I mean, Cami was here. Yeah, probably.
Oh, no.
Hey, wow, what? CIS? No, not CIS. That's how old I am. U Sports Media Personality of
Well,
the
at least
Decade.
you didn't go CIAU.
I could have very easily. I could have. Thanks. By the way, Tatum brought to you by Ski Cellar Snowboard, skicellarsnowboard.com. 76 years in Calgary. 76 years in Calgary. Before I wrap it up,
I actually have a question for you before you wrap it
yes.
up. Well, just because Stampede is on, I didn't know this about you. You spent 7 years calling rodeo?
Yeah, Dwayne Danes and I. Yeah.
Tell me about it. The
on
things you saw.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, we did it on the radio, and I think there were some who liked it, and there were some who, why aren't you talking about, Todd Bertuzzi? He signed with Calgary. I don't want to hear about, somebody on a horse. It is what it is. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. Learned a lot about it. It was fun 10 days, but nice when it was over, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like, most of the time the weather was good, but sometimes you get those late storms that would blow in during bull riding and stuff like that. But yeah.
Bull busting. Come on, Cody.
Yeah, I
Snyder.
know. Yeah. Well, he's redefined that sport. So yes, I did that. But that to me was just another opportunity that this great career path provided for me. I was lucky. And Dwayne was a huge mentor, great guy, and fantastic to work with. We had a lot of fun.
Well, perfect. Maybe we'll watch some rodeo this week.
Yeah, it should be good. It should be good. I guess I should apologize to men coaching women's hockey. I just thinking about this. I'm not upset that men coach women's. I mean, Scott's a friend of mine over at Mount Royal. They're great guys. That's not my point. The point was that Carla made was nobody ever says, should a man coach a women's team? is he qualified? But
Criticizing the double standard, not
that's exactly it. I don't want anybody to think I'm mad at men for coaching women's hockey. That's not it. I'm mad.
You're not telling Troy Ryan to kick rocks.
No. But I am a little pissed.
Troy's great.
I'm a little pissed that nobody came and asked Carla.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what do you think? What are you doing? What do you want to do? It's the institutionalism of it all again. It's the same thing. Like, you know, Tatum was kind enough to come and have coffee with me a couple weeks ago. It was so exciting to talk to her about going to Buffalo. I'm a fan. Now I'm a fan. And then all of a sudden, here's the business of the game. And it brings me back to the conversations I had with Bettman. And when it's one entity, we'll deal with it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he's told me that. I can't even count how many times.
I know, but it's almost like, screw off. You don't need the NHL's approval anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go do it and do it right. But let's build a league with 30 teams because we've got the players. Like, that's the part that drives me nuts. Is, again, it's what Carla said, that great example of they had cigars and beers, and how dare you do that? It's okay to be equal. Well, you can be equal, but only the equal we like, right? Only the equal we're comfortable with, not the equal that's equal. And that's the parts that drive me nuts. Doesn't it? Like, isn't it? Right?
Preaching to the choir.
I know.
There's the point where you just get tired.
Well, it's the same thing with the pride jerseys, right? Like, you know, that's just, I don't need to revisit that show again, but that's just insane to me. It's just absolutely insane. Oh, we got pushback. We better shut up.
Well, speaking of like teams that did it right, the Cavalry even like replaced the corner kick flags.
Yeah.
Oh, you got one of them right behind
absolutely.
you.
100%.
Lovely. So
100%.
Go support those guys. They play on Wednesday against Atletico Ottawa. Then on the 15th against Halifax.
Yes.
That's always a good game when they play Halifax.
Yes.
They won 2 in a row. Scoring lots of goals.
All-Star break in baseball, home run derby tonight. Traditionally the slowest sports day in the calendar, right?
We used to have to fill summer, filling 7.5 minutes of sports on a weekend. Local
sports.
Yeah,
no. I get it. But I remember.
Enjoy your 3-minute long Stampeders highlights.
We'd have meetings in May at 9:60, but what are we going to do on July 11th? Oh my God. You know, and it's like, guys, there's stuff to talk about. But there we are. Final mile today. Just want to shout out Brian Burke. Brian Burke, formerly of the Pittsburgh Penguins, formerly of Sportsnet, formerly of the Calgary Flames, is back in town tomorrow for Brian Burke's Targets for Kids. He is coming to Calgary specifically to support this cause for Kidsport Calgary and the Sports Equipment Bank. He is coming specifically to be the name on this, and he has done that for the last 3 or 4 versions of it. He does not need to do this, but he is you can play and you can look at all of the things that you think you know about Brian Burke and all of the things that Brian Burke actually does. And he is an inspiration. So really excited about this. We're going to have a ton of celebrities there tomorrow, a ton of teams tomorrow. Might be a little wet, but nonetheless, we're going to have a lot of fun. But I just think I want the world to know that Brian Burke, who could very easily blow this off, could very easily calls Kidsport and talks to Kevin Webster and says, this is when I'm available. Can we do it? Absolutely. So I just want the world, if I could sing it from the treetops, I would sing that I want Tatum Amy to have a hockey job right away. I want Carla MacLeod coaching where she's comfortable. And I want people to understand what a great dude Brian Burke is and how lucky and how much I love working with you. That 4 things.
Thanks,
I would sing from the trees. I guess the top of the building. I don't think I fit in trees anymore. I think I just bend them.
Risky.
We are back on Friday. Oh, you might want to put this in your daytimers. Brent Gibbs.
Hey.
On Friday, because we are going to preview the All Elite Wrestling show coming to Calgary for the first time ever on Saturday. Amy Bontorn of the Calgary Hitmen are going to be our guest at that event. She is currently making us uniforms, costumes, whatever you want to say. We're going to all look the same.
I've been bugging Gibbsy about this. I've bugged the NHL about this, trying to find the rejected jersey designs because the NHL has to sign off on them. I want to know what the OG Blasty looked like because they always tweak something from what I've heard. I want to know what the rejected jerseys are. I'm told Calgary's were lost in the flood. I don't believe it.
Yeah. Well, I can ask him on Friday. Can't all be wrestling. Thanks to our outstanding guests today, Carla MacLeod and Tatum Amy. Thanks to our outstanding co-host, Cami Kepke, the CIAU Media Person of the Year. And thanks to our outstanding producer, Jack. We're back on Friday. Remember, it is summer schedule. No Wednesday shows for us. Thanks, everybody. Have a great couple of days and enjoy Stampede.